Welcome to Sydney Harbour for one of the great days on the Australian sporting calendar. The 78th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart, and it is a magnificent day on the harbour. A fleet of just over 100 yachts about to begin the great race, the incredible adventure south to Hobart.
The 78th Rolex Sydney Hobart, the great race south is underway.
Reasonably slow progress down the harbour. You can see the four distinct starting lines.
It's amazing. I mean, the team was a bit disappointed that they didn't turn down on that start ride, but there was a smaller boat smuggler trying to hold us out. So now the discussions on board are really like what sails and when.
Protest! Protest they're calling, tacking too close. Will they go ahead with it? Law Connect still having trouble with that big head sail. So nerves are jingling and jangling out there as Law Connect slides across in front of them.
We've got all boats out safely, which is great news, but I believe all of these teams are going to be in for some bad weather. We're just starting to see the smaller boats clear the heads now, and all in all it was actually a pretty fast exit for these little boats because the best breeze was in Sydney Harbour.
Hello and welcome to the first live update of the 2023 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race from Hobart, Tasmania, the official finishing spot. This year we're broadcasting from the Frank Coulson Memorial Studio. Sadly this year we lost our great friend and a big part of the hype production team, Frankie. We send our thoughts to his wife Vicky and daughters Marty and Sarah. Well, good morning and welcome to the Rolex Race Village here in Hobart. Behind me is the Kings Pier Marina where the majority of the fleet will be berthed. And before we give you an update on the latest action in this year's race, we're now 21 hours into the race. We're going to just recap on what has happened because it was a magnificent telecast by the 7 Network yesterday. And part of that telecast was the man sitting alongside me, Peter Shipway, the voice of Australian sailing, a multiple winner in this race. And Peter, what about yesterday's start? A lot of action last year and no shortage yesterday.
No, it never lets you down, Gordon, as we say good morning. It was terrific again in the light winds. It's provided plenty of spectator action for everyone to see, both on the water and on television. So it was great to be able to cover it, and it's going to be an exciting finish here for sure.
Well, there have been a few withdrawals. We'll go to those very shortly, but let's go to the race tracker, and you can find the race tracker on the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race website. And Peter, let's bring us up to date with the current situation.
Well, this was about 20 minutes ago, Gordon, and that shows this is the line honours list here. Andrew Comanche is leading. And just to explain to those people watching here what all this means, that's obviously the yacht name and the skipper. Then we move across to the position. That's its latitude there. That's how far south they are, and its longitude there, how far east they are, and a position relative to the map. And we can see there that Andrew Comanche is showing southeast of Gabo Island still. And she's almost across Bass Strait. DTG, distance to go, so 335.8 miles to go. So they're not even halfway yet. Speed over the ground is 15 knots. Course over the ground is 162 degrees magnetic. And the elapsed time expected, but that's a little irrelevant at this stage. But you can see that she has got 335 miles to go, and Law Connect has closed in the last hour or so, 336 miles to go. So they're very close, only half a mile behind them. They're almost almost identical positions. So Andu Comanche is a little bit inshore of Law Connect, but they'd both be inside of each other. And then third, and a remarkable performance here is Alive, the former handicap winner from 2018.
Tasmanian boat.
Yes, exactly. 406 miles to go. And then URM, these two boats highly favoured for handicap honours, but boy, there's a long way still to go, and this weather still looks very, very tricky.
Yes, well, we have seen retirements already, but biggest name retirement was unfortunately SHK Scallywag, the maxi 100-footer for David Witt, I should say, and Seng Huang Lee, the billionaire owner from Hong Kong, was going down on the race, his fourth event in the Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, and they had a major problem.
Yes, sadly they did. It's really the first major race this boat's had since its modifications, and look, here we are. That's the bowsprit. That's the prod that sticks out of the front of the boat that takes the spinnakers and gets away from the bow, and wow, catastrophic damage here. The carbon fibre bowsprit is split away from the hull, and a spinnaker would have been hanging off the end of that, so fortunately no one got injured, but that's the damage occurred to Scallywag. They were holding down third place, so very disappointing. Any retirement is a disappointment, but especially after Scallywag has spent over 12 months revamping the boat, new sails, new mast, new configuration, and it's all over within sort of 12 hours of the start.
It really is a tragedy, a devastation for the crew, and everyone feels for them. And for David Witt, who's never won the race on line honours, this was his big chance, but it was not to be. Looking at the other retirements, we have Arcadia, Currawong, the 30-footer with the two pensioners, Kathy Veal and Bridget Canham. They're out of the race. They finished last year, but they'll be going back to the CYC. Maritimo 52, one of the TP 52s, has retired. And also Pac-Man, Rum Rebellion, the two-handed boat, and Sticky is another one out. So there are still 96 boats racing in the 98th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart. And it's tough going, Peter.
Well, it's been very tough overnight. We've heard a few reports from the boats, 180-degree wind shifts in the darkness, a lot of rain. They said the rain, some of the crews have said they've never seen rain like it. It changed positions dramatically. Some of the smaller boats got absolutely clobbered. They ran out of breeze, and they're way behind at the moment. But the leaders seem to get a bit of a jump, but even so, it was tough going there. And we know that URM suffered some sail damage. I think they lost a headsail and their code 0.
Yes, I was speaking to Anthony Johnson this morning, and it hit that southerly change, 180-degree wind change, hit them at about 4:30 this morning, so just before light, and they totally lost their code 0, their biggest reaching spinnaker. So that's gone. But they're back into the groove now, and they rip their jib as well, as you say. Yeah,
well, that could hurt down the track, losing those sails, but they're still very much in the hunt at the moment. And we might, if we can, Gordon, have a look at the race tracker as such. You can see here, that's where Andu Comanche and Law Connect are. And we down here, there's another boat. Now, that was Comanche when she set the race record. So that's how far they are behind race record time. So the race record is no chance. They have to finish by past 10 tonight, and they're still not even halfway.
And just looking at that, Peter, they're well east of the rum line, that imaginary straight course down the coast of New South Wales.
That blue line is the rum line, yes. The straight course from Sydney Heads to Tasman Island. And as you say, these are well to the east. Caro and some of those boats are way out to the east, Whisper another one. But the smaller boats and the middle-sized boats are all stacked up on the rum line here because they didn't get the breeze that these leaders got last night quite as badly, and a lot of them, the second half of the fleet, were calm for a long period of time. So they're all stacked up now basically on the rum line. At Gabo Island, which is down here, the breeze is still very light from the southwest or west, so they're making reasonable progress down the rum line. But the forecast today in Bass Strait is to go round into the southwest. But it's tricky, going to be tricky down here at Tasmania. These leaders are trying to get out to the east to try and ride the remaining easterly in before the breeze gets into the south and they can reach into Tasman Island. But the forecast for Tasman Island tonight is light and variable southeasters. So if they get down here, it's still going to be tricky to get around Tasman Island across the bay, but that's a long way off. As I said, 330 miles still to go. It's a long way to travel.
And Peter, we flew in last night, and the cloud cover. I've never seen cloud formation like that. It was like looking at something, a landscape out of Antarctica. There were little ripples, there were mountains, glaciers, quite incredible. So much moisture off the New South Wales coast and in Bass Strait. Quite unique conditions, and probably still very unpredictable for the majority of the fleet.
I didn't see any glaciers, Gordon. Are you sure you?
Well,
we weren't in Antarctica.
Well, maybe I was being a bit creative there, but I've never seen it. It was very thick cloud, and it was quite surreal. Yeah,
it was. But look there's the Derwent River as we look out across the dock. We're in probably 24 hours and more that it'll start to fill up, but these little boats have still got a long way to go. Even the leaders have. I mean, I think we're probably at least 24 hours, maybe 30 hours from a finish here, so it could be a daylight finish tomorrow.
Well, a very important member of our hosting team is Tasmanian television royalty, Peter G, long-standing ABC sports commentator. We worked together over many years. And Peter, you're out on Kings Pier at the moment. It's going to be a very different scene in about 48 hours' time, no doubt. That's where most of the boats will be berthing. But how's it feeling out there?
Good morning, Gordon. Yes, a very tranquil scene here at the Kings Pier, the first of the Finger Wharves. These pens will be filling up very gradually, but then the bulk of the fleet will get in, and hopefully they'll all be here by New Year. Currawong won't be tail end Charlie this year, so someone else will get that honour, and we'll get an amazing reception from the crowds, which will, I promise you, come down here. The RYCT workers have been getting the wharf into ship shape, getting rid of the remains of the cormorant's lunches over the last few weeks. But it's for fair weather sailors who are tuning into CYCA TV. This is the sort of day you ask for on the River Derwent. Just a light northerly breeze, glorious sunshine. In the inverse to the rest of Australia over Christmas period, it's been glorious down here in Tasmania, and we've got low temperatures in the 20s at the moment. 25 is our maximum today. You couldn't ask for more down here, but out there on the seaway, they've been getting wind overnight. I wonder if they'll get down to Tassie and find it like this and struggle to get up the River Derwent to finally finish this race, which, as Peter has indicated, could be a long one this year. This is where the race will finish, at the mouth of Sullivan's Cove, which is framed at the south by the research vessel Investigator, the CSIRO headquarters, just on the landward side of that big vessel. Then we come across, you'll see, with a couple of motorboats patrolling around the harbour at the moment, the northernmost buoy of the Castray Esplanade finish line. The other buoy is just behind the bow of the Investigator, so that's where the Line Honours winner will cross, probably sometime tomorrow. And then on the northernmost side of the harbour, we've got the big Nassau registered Virgin cruise ship, the Resilient Lady. Great view for the tourists on board that boat, many thousands of them. I think they'll probably be here tomorrow and welcome in the boats along with the big crowds here at Kings Pier. It's a very special time in Hobart, but it's the lull before the storm in terms of the reaction from the spectators.
Well, thank you, Peter. But while you've been talking, we've had a change in leadership of the race. Law Connect has now got his bows in front, only marginally, by 0.7 of a mile. He's 0.7 a mile closer to Hobart, and she is doing 25 knots at the moment compared to Andu Comanche's 21 knots. Early days, but still it's a great battle at the front of the fleet. They're almost, as I said earlier, inside of each other, I'm sure, and they... Law Connect is just slightly, well, she's 2 miles further south than Andu Comanche, a little bit further to the east, and 332 miles to go. Not halfway, as I kept saying. And then Alive is third, then the URM group is fourth. This is distance to go to Hobart. Smugglers next, then we got Money Penny sixth, Highly Sprung seventh, Celestial eighth, Teasing Machine from France 9, and Wild Thing 100. She's in 10th spot. Caro, highly fancied on handicap from New Zealand, in 12th spot, way to the east. So we keep saying a lot to play out here, and we have a quick look, Gordon, at the handicap positions here, and we see MRV is leading, but it's early days to try and put any hope on handicap at this stage. Smuggler, Lightning, Utzbar, Highly Sprung and Mayfair. But with such a long way to go, it really doesn't mean much. It probably gives a thrill to some of the family and friends watching, but I think before this race is finished, we're going to see a lot of changes, both in line honours and in the handicap honours.
Well, we will come back to the tracker, Peter, before we sign off here today from the Rolex Race Village. But the point you're making there is that the two 100-footers are neck and neck at the moment. And Christian Beck has been runner-up last 3 years in a row. He hasn't won line honours as the owner, but this is his big chance the way things are shaping.
Yeah, I mean, it's a race that opportunities exist and will persist all the way through, I think. Even though they're close together, you know, a mile one way or a mile the other way could mean the big difference between 10 knots of breeze and 20 knots of breeze. And boy, these boats wick up in 20 knots. If they're 10 knots, they're a bit slower, obviously. But it's very close, but it's still a lot of game to play out here. And I would think that as the day wears on, and we'll see tomorrow when they get on the breeze, Spinnakers will be down. I think a lot of tricks to play.
Well, Andu Comanche has just been like Winx the racehorse. It's won everything, hasn't it? Line honours in every ocean event it's tackled. But Tony Mutta and Chris Nicholson on Law Connect are there, really snapping at the heels of Andu Comanche, and maybe just got their nose in front, as you say. So that's going to be a riveting battle. But talking of the telecast yesterday on the 7 network, a magnificent telecast, you can see the full replay on the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race website, and it's well worth a look if you didn't catch the action yesterday. And part of that coverage was someone who's going to be with us here in the studio here at Kings Pier, Lisa Darmanin, a dual Olympian, a silver medalist at the Olympic Games, and she was on Andu Comanche yesterday, and she sent through this report.
Hi, I'm Lisa Darmanin, and it's great to be joining for the 2023 Rolex Sydney to Hobart. And unfortunately, I'm going to be a bit late to Hobart because I'm doing the start with Andu Comanche, but they're pushing me off at Bondi, so I'll catch a plane and see you soon.
And Lisa, of course, the Olympic silver medalist in sailing. They're both good in the boat.
Yeah, terrific stuff there from Lisa Darmanin. Peter Shipway would have struggled to get back on board there. I can certainly guarantee that. But it's going to be wonderful to have Lisa with us, Peter.
Gordon,
Is that being unkind?
I won the under-12s breaststroke championship a couple of years ago.
I thought you might have been disqualified with incorrect technical kick. But Lisa will be joining us for our next report at 4 o'clock local time this afternoon. Well, a man that you've done a lot of sailing with, certainly through your Love and War connection, Lindsay May. He's on Antipodes, he's the navigator, and he will be sailing in his 50th consecutive Rolex Sydney Hobart. Back to you, Lisa.
I'm here aboard Antipodes with Lindsay May. Lindsay, this will be your 50th consecutive Hobart. That's absolutely amazing.
Yep, so long as I'm there on Boxing Day at the 5-minute gun, it is amazing. I can't believe I got there. I never set out to do it. It's just happened, and it's scary that it did happen.
The years have gone fast, it sounds like.
The years have gone incredibly fast. Once I was called a young and up-and-coming navigator, and now I'm called a veteran. I don't know what happened in the middle.
Well, you've won a couple as well along the way.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to win 3 on handicap, and once overall, line honours 97 on Brindabella.
Fantastic. And you mentioned navigating, obviously a veteran navigator. This is your little station. Any tips for the race ahead?
Well, tips for the race ahead. The interesting thing this year is the current, and the East Australian current is quite close to the coast and extending all the way down the New South Wales coast, and I've never seen that before.
Well, let's talk about the boat. Obviously, she's super wide, and you've got a bit of a web up here. Can you maybe tell me what's going on up here?
Yeah, well, I've never seen this sort of before. I call it the spider's web. I don't know whether it's got an official name, but as you can see, it's a series of interlaced ropes which allow you to get around the boat and hang on and not go for a spill. And, as I've seen over the years, more accidents happen below than happen on deck. More broken ribs and so forth happen down here. And it's very wide, and a lot of these boats are all very, very wide, but most of them you can get a handhold. You can get from the companionway to somewhere and there's a handhold. But this boat, that's a stretch there. You can't do it unless you're some huge, gargantuan butterfly swimmer. So the thing here is you come down here, grab hold of this, and we can get all the way to the heads, the sails. Floors are always got sails on them, so they're usually fairly secure to stand on. But this is just great. And, you just get with a group of people that you rely on. That's the most important thing, is that your safety is dependent upon everybody else that's on the boat. And we intend to have a good race, and we'll do the absolute best we can. And when we get to the other end, we'll celebrate.
Sounds like the camaraderie is everything, and congratulations on lining up for your 50th. It's incredible.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, and they also have 3 full-time Filipino sailors on board, and they're ex-fishermen. And apparently their work around the boat and the foredeck is quite incredible. But your connection with Love and War, he had 7 races with Peter Kurtz. It's a very special connection, Peter.
Yes, it is. He's a great bloke, Lindsay, and I don't know what he's doing eating spam there. I didn't think that was on the diet.
That goes back to his Navy and Army days, I think, yeah.
It's a lovely drop, that. But no, 50 races, whether consecutively or not, is an amazing performance, and he's been very successful with the boats he's raced on. Antipodes had difficulty last night, in that got caught with their pants down really in that 180-degree wind shift. They had a spinnaker wrap round the forestay and a spinnaker staysail wrapped entwined in the spinnaker, so they had to run northeast for a period of time to get it all untangled, but they're up and running now. But yeah, Lindsay, look, he started as a young bowman and now he's a veteran navigator, but he's been on a lot of good boats and he's won the race 3 times. Once as the skipper of Love and War when the boat was lent to him by Simon Kurtz. He once won on Indian Pacific, and
they went 115 miles east of the rub line.
1984. Yeah. It was a tough, hard southerly race. They just going east.
105 yachts retired that year.
Yeah. And then he won again on Atara. So a terrific record. And whether someone will get to 50 consecutives, I don't really know. But congratulations to Lindsay, and he's got a party planned for the lunchtime on the 30th. At the upstairs in the Customs House
Hotel.
For anyone that sailed with him. He sent invitations out to anyone that has sailed with him in a Hobart race. Okay. There's going to be a lot of people there, but a lot of them mightn't even be in Hobart by that time.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
do you know how he started sailing, Peter? Because I do. I bet you don't.
No, I'll leave that to you, Gordon. I do know, but I'll let you tell the story.
Let me tell you the story. Well, he started sailing out of RANSA, the Royal Australian Navy Association, next to the CYC, and with a flatmate who was a midshipman, they used to take a roast chook and a flagon of red wine out on their boat with 2 nurses from Royal North Shore Hospital. And 2 years later, both of those flatmates married those 2 nurses. So that's how he got into sailing. So his intentions were very honourable, but they did it in style.
Well, his first Hobart race, one of his early Hobart races was on a boat called Honour of Gosford, owned by the late Peter Rysdick, who was a life member of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, and hence the name of the boat, Honour of Gosford. Peter lived up near Gosford, near the Sarah Lee factory. Now, Sarah Lee made pies and cheesecakes and apple pies and pizzas. So the whole, Peter Rysdick, a flamboyant sort of character, said, leave the catering to me. I'll do all the catering. So the crew thought, oh, that's pretty nice of him. So they arrived, the first meal they had was pizza, the second meal they had was pizza, the third meal they had was pizza, then they followed up with an apple pie. So the whole trip was pizzas and apple pies. So they got into the Derwent River, and one of the crew was Johnny Dawson, one of the founding members of the Quiet Little Drink.
Yes.
Sadly no longer with us either. And Dorso was a bit of a character, so they were coming in the river and the sea breeze started to filter in. So it was time to set a spinnaker for Honour of Gosford to come up the river. So Dorso decided he'd get into the galley and find every pasty he could find, every pizza he could find, every apple pie he could find, and stuff them all into the spinnaker. So they popped the spinnaker, and when the spinnaker popped, all the apple pies, everything went into the Derwent River.
Yes.
Today, he would have been gone to jail for pollution, but they said it was like a torrent pies going everywhere out of the Spinnaker. So that's another Lindsay May story.
But that's the great thing about this race, Peter. It's about the people.
About the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny Dawson, one of the great characters.
Yes.
And Lindsay, another great character. I mean, he's got a lot of friends, and it'll be a big party here in Hobart in a few days' time for him.
Well, one of the founders also with John Dawson, Tony Cable, who's done 53 Rolex Sydney Hobarts. He was on the Jackson, the start boat, yesterday. And I think he said he was on Sylph 6.
That's right.
It's one of the two-handed boats in 1963, and they took 7 days and 17 hours.
Yeah, it was Tony's second Hobart race.
Yes, yeah. So
And Sylph 6 still battling away down the tail end of the fleet. Well, he was the first to 50 Hobart races, obviously not consecutively, but another great character.
Now, back to the serious business. We talked about this battle at the head of the fleet between Andu Comanche and Law Connect, and we were able to make contact with Law Connect and discover some of the drama they've experienced with the navigator, Chris Lewis.
Hey, mate. So, tough night. Looks like it's pretty wet up there at the moment.
Yeah. Everybody's pretty pruny right now. It's wet as can be.
Yeah, it looks like you've been going through some obviously soft patches, some quicker patches at times, all over the place still.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of everything. In fact, the wildest was like literally 180-degree wind shifts. Been pretty wild.
And you're doing well against Comanche still, haven't you?
Yeah, real well. We're playing cat and mouse all night long.
Nice. I'll leave you to it. Looks pretty wet, and I'm sure you've got plenty to do.
Right on.
As we mentioned, that 180-degree wind shift hit URM Group at 4:35 this morning. You can't really prepare for something like that, can you?
Not really. I mean, it'll be just the sun. Well, obviously, it'll be just coming up to dawn. It'd still be pretty dark, and especially if you got rain, and it would just be come out of nowhere, really. And even in daylight, a wind change like that can hit pretty quickly. But they had everything last night, as we saw Chris saying there. And I mean, top navigator, really top guy, and he's been the last couple of years on Law Connect and based in San Francisco, and one of the real nice guys of yachting, and he's in high demand worldwide. But they've got a very good crew on Law Connect, as have Andu Comanche. Tony Mutter's the skipper, or Tony Mutter, skipper of Law Connect for Christian Beck. I think he's been around the world 6 times and won it twice.
Yeah.
Chris Nicholson, 2-time Australian Yachtsman of the Year. I think he's been around the world 4 or 5 times. And a lot of other.
And he gets a bit seasick too, Chris.
Yeah, well, you'd think he would learn by now. But one of the things that Tony said to me about Law Connect, and a lot of these top boats, he said when he gets off the helm, and he's the number one helmsman, he started the boat yesterday, he's got absolute confidence in the people he's handing over to. He doesn't have to really tell them much. They drive the boat as hard as they all do. So it's very continuous, the performance of the boat. It's not as though one guy's better than another. He can just step aside, someone else takes the helm, and he knows the boat's going at 100% potential. And that's key to these big boats. I mean, they are so hard and dangerous to sail, and the loads are incredible. You only have to sail on them, and you know, one breakage, as we saw on Scallywag, it can be catastrophic. And the big thing is that they don't hurt the people on board, and that's the number one priority.
And shippers, let's just recap again on this very tricky, unpredictable weather situation at the moment. What can we expect?
Well, from here, it's hard to get a handle on it, Gordon. I think the big boats are still trying to get to the east, and they didn't quite get the roller coaster ride that the easterly would have if they could got south quicker and picked up the stronger easterlies. They got a bit of it, but it was all over the place last night. I think now, as I said before, the leaders are trying to get east more than south. That might sound funny, but that's what they're trying to, because the easterly's still out there. They can ride it in to Tasmania, but you know, it's difficult. And I'm sure the navigators out there are scratching their heads as well to see what this presents itself over the next 36 hours or so. But
Anthony Johnson, speaking to him this morning, he said they were expecting a nor'easterly pattern. So who knows what's going to happen?
Well, it could be everywhere. At Gabo Island at the moment, I just looked at the weather ops there from the Bureau of Meteorology. It's still light at Gabo. So those smaller boats that are inshore on the rum line and close to the coast, it's going to be light for them, and their progress is slow. So, look, it is possible that one of these big boats could get the double. They won't get the triple. That's line honours, the race record, and handicap honours. But they could easily get line honours and handicap honours, these two big boats. They could get in and the weather closes down, or everyone's on the wind, hard on the wind. At the moment, Law Connect 329 to go, and Alive 401 miles to go. So there we go. So we can see there that, just bring that down a little. So that's 70, she's about 72 miles behind is Alive.
Pete, for those who may have just joined us, you might just take us through working down from race leader Law Connect, just those stats that are being revealed in detail.
Yes, if we obviously there's got the skipper of the boat, Christian Beck, Law Connect. We look up here, line honours. We'll just go up the screen a little, and we see line honours. So that gives you the ranking of the boats from first to last, and we see that Law Connect, that's her latitude there, 39 degrees 21 minutes south, and 151.47 minutes east. And every minute of latitude is 1 nautical mile. So
that's southeast of Gabo. How far across Bass Strait is Law Connect?
Well, we'll have a look at the tracker in the moment. She's almost a beam of Flinders Island, I would think. But just explaining that there, Gordon, 39 degrees 21 minutes south, Andu Comanche 39 degrees 19 minutes south. So every minute of latitude is 1 nautical mile. So Law Connect is 2 nautical miles further south than Andu Comanche, but then longitude comes into play. They're almost at the same longitude. 151.47 east, 151.46
Would they be
east.
inside of each other?
Yeah, they would be now, for sure. And distance to go, 329.1 and 330.4.
Just over a mile, the difference.
Yep, and speed over the ground, this is rather critical, 26 knots to 21 knots. But I must say that speed over the ground is taken at an instantaneous spot. So if a boat's surfing down a wave, she might have picked up real speed and they tacked her at that moment. She's doing 26 knots. Andu Comanche might have missed that wave, so she's doing 21. So
it could be the start of that nor'easterly
you could get a bit of a handle on it, but it's where it will play out a big difference if we scroll down the fleet and go towards the tail enders. You stick with me here.
Yes, we're staying with you, Peter.
Okay, you can see some of the smaller boats. We're down into the middle of the fleet. Say Atomic Blonde, she's 65th on line honours, only doing 7 knots. Love and War doing 8 knots. She's sailing at 198, and she is just southeast of Jarvis Bay.
So they haven't hit Bass Strait yet?
No, they're a long way
back,
out. They haven't even done 100 miles. They've not just done 100 miles of the race, so they've still got 524 miles to go. They're 3 or 4 days away.
And they've had some tough conditions by the sound of it.
Well, it sounded it was light last night.
Oh, okay.
When
There's a lot of lightning.
Yeah, a lot of lightning, and these tail enders got dropped off really yesterday afternoon and early evening. The leaders were doing 16, 18 knots. The tail enders were doing 2 knots. And then we quickly go across again. We might have a look at the tracker now, and that gives you the positions of the boats on a map. And we'll bring it up there. There we go. And well, you can see there. I'll bring that in. You can see the 2 leaders I'll just readjust here. So they're the 2 leaders there. And that's Flinders Island there. So they're not quite a beam of Flinders.
And Peter, that on the left-hand side, just off the Tasmanian coast, that's where Andu Comanche was on her record schedule.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So they're way behind that.
They're getting way behind. And then, as we said earlier, there's the majority of the fleet stacked up on the New South Wales coast, all here on the rum line. And these other boats that tried to get to the east to get out there, there's a few of the well-known
Sean
boats.
Langman, Moneypenny.
Yeah, he's well placed.
Yep.
There.
Not far behind URM Group.
Yep. Well, I've lost him there.
Yeah. You wouldn't get a job as a cameraman,
Oh
Pete.
no, hang on, Gordon. Don't panic, don't panic. I'm back. Here we go, boys. We're back.
Stay on that shot. Hold it steady.
Yes. You can see alive how far east she is of the rum line. There's the rum line, the straight line, and they're way out to the east, these boats here. But so far to go, and so those wind arrows probably maybe not quite correct, but that's the way it looks at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think we've sort of summed up the whole situation. Very much a calm of activity here on the Derwent, not a lot of breeze, and clearly Law Connect and Andu Comanche have a bit of breeze at the moment, judging by the speeds they're currently doing, but they are leading the race, and Tantalisingly, Law Connect is ahead of Andu Comanche at the moment, and Law Connect has been the bridesmaid for a Christian Beck, the owner, for the last 3 Rolex Sydney Hobarts.
Well, it's interesting, Gordon, that both navigators on Andu Comanche and Law Connect are Americans. Justin Schaefer, navigator, again, world class, highly qualified on Andu Comanche, and Christopher Lewis on Law Connect. And then alive, we've got Australia's leading yachtswoman, Adrian, as the navigator, Adrian Cahalan on Alive, and another lady navigator on URM, Alice Parker. So the girls are fighting it out with the men, which is terrific.
Adrian Carlin's been a multiple winner.
Yep.
You know, she's round the world racer, and I think equaling you, 31 Hobarts for Adrian Carlin this year.
I think that's right.
Yes,
yeah. And I was fortunate enough to sail with her on a couple of victories with Wild Oats, and highly qualified, and just a wonderful person, and great to go to sea with. But boy, she's done some sea miles, that's for sure.
Yeah, she holds she's a marine lawyer and a bachelor, a master's in meteorology, and a professional sailor and an absolute legend, Australian Sailing Hall of Famer Adrian Carlin.
And well deserved.
And a wonderful lady, and also trying to get her 2 daughters through high school at the moment, as well as managing everything else. But let's look at the broadcast times for our coverage from the Rolex Media Village here in Hobart. And our next report will be at 4 o'clock live. We'll bring you right up to date with happenings every day right through to the 31st of December, 10 a.m. and 4 p.m, and follow all of the action on social media as well. So Peter Shipway, I think that just about takes us out, but we can look forward to the next report, and we'll be joined by Lisa and also Peter G.
Yes, I just might say, before we wrap up, Gordon, of the retirements, we mentioned Scallywag earlier, and you mentioned all those boats that are out, but disappointingly, all boats that retire, it's disappointment for family, friends, and certainly the crew, but Maritimo 52, that was going to be highly placed, I believe, on handicap, she's out. Her forestay fitting broke. That's the wire or the rod that holds the mast up, that runs from the top of the mast to the front of the boat, so you certainly can't sail without that. And Currawong, the little 2-hander, as you said, that was last to finish, just 20 minutes to midnight, she is out as well with electrical problems. So at the moment, I think there's 7 retirements, so 96 boats still racing.
Yeah, that's a very young crew on Maritimo as well, a lot of young sailors.
And also Scott Kaufman on board.
Wow.
Scott did his first Hobart race 60 years ago, 1963.
Yes.
And he was on Seal 3 when they won 50 years ago.
Yeah, you were probably in primary school.
I was in primary school, Gordon, yes. I was still dribbling.
And that's a lie, and that is definitely a lie, yeah.
I was dribbling then, I'm dribbling now.
Okay, that wraps it up then from the Rolex Media Village here. And the Kings Pier Marina in the background. We'll bring you all the action again at 4 o'clock. Until then, it's goodbye from the Rolex Race Village here in Hobart.
Run it up.